The person who tried to destroy you is about to face God's justice. Listen carefully. This message did not find you by accident. Heaven aligned this moment because the weight you carried is reaching its turning point. I am Archangel Michael, and I speak now with divine authority, because what was done against you was not overlooked, not excused, and not forgotten. You survived something that was meant to break you. Something intentional. Something calculated. It was not misunderstanding. It was not coincidence. It was not merely conflict. There was intent behind it. Someone tried to undermine you quietly, to weaken your foundation, to damage your name, your confidence, your future, without ever standing openly against you. And for a long time, it appeared as if they succeeded. You watched them move freely. You watched them speak confidently. You watched them act as if nothing they did carried consequence. And in the silence, you asked questions you never voiced out loud. Did God see this? Was this allowed? Why am I the one carrying the pain while they walk away untouched? Hear this clearly now, God saw everything. Every word spoken in secret. Every action hidden behind excuses. Every moment when they crossed a line and assumed no one would hold them accountable. What you experienced was not random suffering. It was an attack that heaven recorded. And God does not ignore attempts to destroy what He has protected. Justice does not always arrive immediately. It arrives exactly when it can no longer be avoided. You may not realize it yet, but the season has shifted. The protection that once covered them is lifting. The advantage they relied on is weakening. The narrative they controlled is beginning to crack. This is not because you prayed for revenge. It is because justice responds to alignment, not emotion. You did not retaliate. You did not expose them publicly. You did not try to force accountability. You stayed clean. And because you stayed clean, God took the case personally. Understand this, there is a difference between conflict and destruction intent. Conflict teaches. Destruction is judged. What they attempted went beyond disagreement. It crossed into harm. And heaven does not remain silent when harm is intentional. That is why you were preserved when you should have collapsed. That is why your spirit endured when your strength was tested. That is why the very thing meant to end you instead refined you. You were never abandoned. You were being shielded while justice prepared itself. Soon, you will notice changes that seem unrelated at first. Support shifting away from them. Opportunities closing unexpectedly. Words failing to convince where they once persuaded easily. This is not coincidence. This is consequence aligning. God does not strike in chaos. He removes covering and allows truth to take its place. And truth exposes everything. They may not immediately understand what is happening. They will blame timing, circumstances, other people. But heaven knows the root. Because justice is not loud at first. It is precise. And here is something important you must hear now. You are not part of what is coming for them. You are not meant to watch closely. You are not meant to comment. You are not meant to participate. God is separating outcomes. What is unfolding will not touch your peace. It will not stain your future. It will not pull you back into the past. You were removed before correction began for a reason. Because God does not punish His protected ones with proximity to judgment. This is why you must remain still now. Do not explain yourself. Do not announce what you sense. Do not step back into old dynamics. Let God complete what He started. If this message is settling deeply within you, remain grounded. And if staying connected to this guidance feels aligned, even a gentle sign of support helps ensure these prophetic confirmations continue reaching those who are being protected in silence, without breaking the sacred flow. Because what God is about to reveal next will explain why they were allowed to go as far as they did. And when you understand that reason, you will finally see how close justice truly is. And why it will arrive in a way no one expects. Stay with me now, because this is where heaven reveals what was happening behind the scenes while you were trying to survive the damage. I am Archangel Michael, and I tell you this with clarity: God was not passive while you were being attacked. He was restraining you so He could respond without interference. You felt the urge to defend yourself, to speak the truth loudly, to expose what was being done to you. But something stopped you. That was not fear. That was divine restraint. God knew that if you acted from pain, the focus would shift from injustice to reaction. If you confronted too early, the truth would become an argument. If you exposed before the evidence matured, justice would be delayed. So heaven asked you to endure longer than felt fair. Not because God was unsure, but because He was building a case no one could dismiss. You only saw fragments. God saw the full pattern. He saw how the attacks were not isolated incidents, but a strategy. How manipulation repeated itself in cycles. How the same harm appeared in different forms. That repetition was not accidental. It was proof. God allows repetition when exposure requires confirmation. He allows patterns to form so truth can stand on its own, without your testimony. That is why you were silenced, not to weaken you, but to strengthen the outcome. And while you were being pushed to the edge emotionally, heaven was removing layers of protection from the one who tried to destroy you. Favor they relied on quietly began to thin. Support they assumed was permanent began to waver. Influence they used without accountability began to weaken. They did not notice at first. People rarely notice when grace is being withdrawn. They confuse delay with approval. They mistake tolerance for safety. They assume time means escape. But time is not an eraser. It is a witness. And now that witness is speaking. You may begin to notice subtle shifts. Their words no longer land the same. Their authority feels questioned. Their confidence seems forced. That is not coincidence. That is the early stage of justice. God does not collapse structures suddenly unless mercy has expired. He loosens them gradually so truth can be seen clearly. This is why you must not step back into the story. Do not check on them. Do not ask questions. Do not attempt to understand how justice is unfolding. Your understanding is not required. Your distance is. Because what is coming will require separation to remain clean. You were removed before judgment began so you would not be associated with the consequences. God does not punish His protected ones with proximity to correction. That is mercy toward you. There is also something happening inside you that you may not have named yet. Your desire to be understood is fading. Your need to explain is dissolving. Your attachment to outcomes is loosening. This is not detachment from people, it is alignment with peace. Peace arrives when you trust God enough to stop watching the fall. And yes, something is falling. Not loudly. Not dramatically. But structurally. The foundation they built on deception cannot hold weight forever. Soon, responsibility will be required where excuses once worked. Truth will be demanded where manipulation once succeeded. Consistency will be tested where shortcuts were used. And when that happens, the cracks will show. You will not need to celebrate. You will not need to comment. You will not need to feel vindicated. Your peace will be enough confirmation. This is also why God is preparing you for movement. When justice begins, God never leaves His chosen stagnant. Doors will open quietly. Opportunities will reappear in healthier forms. Support will come without conditions. Because the moment God removes opposition, He restores flow. You may feel drawn to new environments, new routines, new conversations. Follow that. It is part of your release. You are not meant to stand still while justice unfolds behind you. You are meant to move forward while God handles what you cannot fix. And here is the truth that will settle you deeply. What they tried to destroy is already protected beyond their reach. Your future cannot be accessed by those who harmed your past. God has sealed that door. Remain still. Remain separate. Remain aligned. Because what God is about to reveal next will show how their own actions are becoming the instrument of their judgment. And when you see that clearly, you will understand why heaven insisted you stay silent, and why justice had to arrive this way. Stay with me now, because this is where heaven reveals how their own choices have already begun turning against them, without God needing to lift a finger in anger. I am Archangel Michael, and I tell you this with certainty: God's justice often works by allowing truth to collide with consequence. What they used to hurt you is the very thing now working against them. The manipulation they relied on is no longer convincing. The lies they told are no longer aligning with reality. The shortcuts they took are now demanding accountability. They thought strategy would protect them. They thought silence would bury the truth. They thought time would erase what they did. But there is a law they underestimated: whatever is built against God's order will eventually expose itself. God did not need to chase them. He did not need to confront them. He simply stopped shielding what they were misusing. And when divine covering lifts, reality becomes unforgiving. You may notice that situations around them are becoming tighter. Decisions are backfiring. Relationships are straining. Opportunities are drying up without explanation. This is not misfortune. This is alignment correcting itself. When someone attempts to destroy what God is protecting, they place themselves outside of order. And outside of order, nothing holds. This is why justice feels delayed at first. Because God allows the imbalance to grow visible. Exposure requires contrast. Truth requires light. And light is now increasing. They are being required to answer questions they once avoided. To explain actions they once justified easily. To face consequences they assumed would never arrive. They will not connect it to you. They will not see it as judgment. They will call it stress, pressure, bad timing. But heaven knows the source. And heaven knows why this is happening now. Because what they did crossed from personal wrongdoing into spiritual violation. They did not just hurt you. They attempted to interfere with what God was developing through you. And God guards His purposes fiercely. That is why the response is so precise. This justice is not emotional. It is surgical. God is removing their ability to continue the behavior, not punishing them publicly yet, but limiting them quietly. Influence is shrinking. Control is slipping. Confidence is being tested. And this is only the beginning. Because once God removes momentum, everything that depended on it begins to stall. You may feel a strange sense of distance now, not just from them, but from the entire season. That is intentional. God is pulling you forward so you do not feel tempted to look back. Because what is unfolding next will require clarity, not commentary. This is also where your healing becomes unmistakable. You are no longer scanning the horizon for justice. You are no longer bracing for impact. You are no longer waiting for explanation. You are present. And presence is the sign that fear has left. This is the moment many people miss, but you must not. Do not confuse calm with disinterest. Do not confuse peace with indifference. Peace means trust has replaced vigilance. God is asking you now to trust Him completely, not just with the past, but with the outcome. You were faithful when it hurt. Now be faithful when it is quiet. Because the quiet phase is where justice finalizes itself. Soon, others will begin noticing what you already sense. Questions will surface. Patterns will be discussed. Discrepancies will be acknowledged. And still, you will say nothing. Because truth does not require your voice anymore. It requires your absence. God is not asking you to witness their fall. He is asking you to walk away from the scene entirely. That is why you are being repositioned now. New environments will feel lighter. New connections will feel mutual. New opportunities will feel clean. This is restoration. Not dramatic. Not loud. But unmistakable. And hear this clearly. Justice does not always look like punishment. Sometimes it looks like removal of influence. Loss of access. Exposure without explanation. Sometimes it looks like God allowing someone to face the weight of their own actions without interference. That weight is heavy. Heavier than confrontation. Heavier than argument. Heavier than retaliation. Because there is no one left to blame. As this message settles, release the need to understand every detail. You do not need to know how justice will complete itself. You only need to remain aligned while it does. And if staying connected to this guidance feels right, even a quiet sign of support helps ensure these prophetic confirmations continue reaching those who are being protected while justice works unseen. Because what God is about to reveal next will not focus on them at all. It will reveal why you were protected so fiercely, and how the season ahead will require every ounce of strength this one produced. Remain with me now, because this is where heaven begins to shift the focus entirely away from them and fully onto you. I am Archangel Michael, and I speak this with calm authority. What God is doing now is not only justice behind you, but restoration ahead of you. Up to this point, your awareness has been divided. Part of you was healing. Part of you was watching. Part of you was bracing, wondering if the harm done would ever be acknowledged by heaven. That divided attention is ending. God never corrects injustice without also realigning destiny. The moment justice is secured, direction becomes clear. and direction is now being restored. You may already feel it, a subtle release in your body. Less tension in your chest. Fewer intrusive thoughts. A calm that doesn't need reassurance. That calm is not resignation. It is confirmation. Confirmation that God has taken full responsibility for what was done to you. This is why your spirit is no longer alert in the same way. Why you are no longer scanning for danger. Why you feel less compelled to replay the past. Your nervous system is responding to truth before your mind fully catches up. That is healing at its deepest level. God is teaching you something essential now. You were never meant to carry vigilance forever. Vigilance kept you alive in the attack. But it cannot lead you into the next season. The next season requires openness, clarity, and grounded confidence. This is why God is closing your awareness to what is collapsing behind you. He does not want your energy tied to correction. He wants it invested in construction. There is something ahead that requires your full presence. A role. A responsibility. An opportunity that demands steadiness, not survival instincts. You could not step into it while still looking back. So God is gently turning your head forward. You may notice a change in your desires. What once mattered deeply now feels distant. What once felt urgent now feels optional. What once drained you now feels irrelevant. That is not loss of passion. That is alignment refining priority. God is removing emotional noise so you can hear direction clearly. And direction is coming. Not all at once. Not with pressure. But with quiet certainty. You may feel drawn toward new rhythms. New routines. New spaces where your spirit can breathe. Follow that. It is not escapism. It is repositioning. This is the moment where heaven seals your separation. Not with anger. Not with bitterness. But with peace so deep it feels like relief. That relief is not relief that something bad happened to them. It is relief that nothing bad can reach you anymore. Your boundaries are stronger now. Your discernment is sharper. Your tolerance for imbalance is lower. This is not because you are guarded. It is because you are awake. Awakened people do not need to explain themselves. They move according to clarity. This is also why God is asking you not to speak about this season anymore. Not because it didn't matter, but because it no longer defines you. Talking about it would reopen what God has already sealed. You are not meant to narrate justice. You are meant to walk forward free. Others may not understand the change in you. They may sense distance. They may feel a shift. They may wonder why you no longer engage the same way. Let them wonder. Your alignment does not require their understanding. God is not isolating you, He is filtering your environment. Only what is safe, mutual, and clean will remain close. This is protection, not loss. And now hear this carefully, justice is not the climax of your story. It is the clearing of the stage. The next act is not about what was taken from you. It is about what is about to be entrusted to you. You were tested with harm. You responded with integrity. You endured without becoming bitter. That qualifies you for responsibility others cannot carry. God does not place influence in wounded hands. He heals them first. And healing is now evident in you. You are not rushing. Not reacting. not proving. You are grounded. That grounding is what will make the next season sustainable. As this segment settles, let yourself rest in this truth. You did not survive by chance. You were protected on purpose. And what comes next will feel lighter because the weight of the past no longer follows you. Remain present. Remain open. Remain forward-facing. Because what God is about to unfold next will not be about justice at all. It will be about assignment. And the way that assignment arrives will confirm why heaven defended you so fiercely in the first place. Stay with me now, because this is where heaven brings everything into completion and commissioning. I am Archangel Michael, and I speak this with final authority. What God is concluding behind you is what makes possible what He is releasing ahead of you. The justice you were waiting for was never meant to consume your future. It was meant to clear it. Now that the interference has been removed, your path no longer requires defense. It requires direction. You may notice that your energy feels different now. More stable. Less reactive. More intentional. That is not emotional exhaustion. That is readiness. Readiness does not feel dramatic. It feels settled. God has brought you to a place where your spirit no longer asks, "Why did this happen?" It now asks, "What am I being prepared for?" That shift is everything. Because questions rooted in pain keep you anchored to the past. Questions rooted in purpose move you forward. And you are moving forward now. There is a calling unfolding that will not tolerate chaos, distraction, or unresolved wounds. It requires clarity. It requires restraint. It requires the kind of strength that only comes from surviving an attack without losing integrity. You carry that strength now. Not because you fought back, but because you trusted God to fight for you. That trust has refined your discernment. It has sharpened your boundaries. It has matured your compassion. These are not soft traits. They are marks of authority. God does not entrust influence to those who react emotionally to injustice. He entrusts it to those who can remain aligned while justice unfolds without them. You proved that. And because you did, what comes next will feel different from anything you have known. Not louder. Not faster. But truer. You will not need to push doors open. You will not need to convince anyone of your worth. You will not need to carry explanations into new spaces. Your presence will speak for itself. The assignment ahead will come quietly, almost subtly, but you will recognize it immediately. It will align with your peace. It will respect your boundaries. It will not demand you abandon who you became during the trial. That is how you will know it is from God. He never calls you into something that requires you to unlearn your healing. You may also notice that your circle becomes smaller, but stronger. Less dramatic, but more dependable. Less demanding, but more mutual. This is intentional. God is refining your environment to match your assignment. Not everyone who knew you in survival mode can walk with you in stability. And that is okay. You are not leaving anyone behind. You are walking where you are called. As you step forward, resist the temptation to look back one last time. Do not measure progress by comparison. Do not wait for confirmation from those who once doubted you. Do not seek validation from people who never had access to your process. God already validated you by defending you. That is enough. The season ahead will reward consistency, not intensity. Faithfulness, not reaction. Discernment, not impulse. You are equipped for this. And here is the final truth heaven wants you to receive. The person who tried to destroy you did not delay your destiny. They accelerated your preparation. What they meant for harm forced you to grow in ways comfort never would have. It strengthened your foundation. It purified your motives. It anchored your trust in God alone. That is why justice came when it did, not earlier, not later. At the exact moment when it could no longer pull you backward. You are no longer defined by what you survived. You are defined by what you are ready to steward. Walk forward now. Without fear. Without bitterness. Without carrying what was never yours. God has handled what was behind you. And what is ahead of you will require the clarity, strength, and authority this season produced. This is not the end of the story. This is the beginning of assignment fulfilled.